On a distant planet far from Earth, tensions ran high. The galaxy was a place of constant conflict, where different races, each more powerful than the next, fought for dominance. But there was one race that had quickly earned respect across the stars: humans. They were known for their resilience, their quick thinking, and their ability to win battles against overwhelming odds. Despite this, their appearance often led to ridicule. To the other species, humans were small and unremarkable. Captain Sam Carter, a seasoned officer in Earth's elite military unit, was about to learn just how little respect humans had earned in the eyes of the galaxy. He had been sent to the planet Varnar to negotiate a peace treaty with the planet's rebellious faction, led by a woman named Commander Arya. She was fierce, with strength and intellect that matched any warrior Sam had met before. The mission, however, would not be easy. As Sam's shuttle landed on Varnar's dusty surface, he looked out at the vast desert landscape. The sun beat down relentlessly and the air was dry, filled with dust that swirled in the hot wind. His boots kicked up the sand as he made his way toward the rendezvous point, a crude, makeshift base camp where Commander Arya and her men had set up shop. As he approached, he was greeted by a group of Arya's soldiers, each of them towering over him. They gave him strange looks, sizing him up, as if wondering how a human so small could possibly pose a threat to their planet. They whispered amongst themselves, clearly not taking him seriously. It wasn't the first time Sam had been looked down upon. He wasn't big like the alien mercenaries he had fought before, whose muscles seemed to stretch the very fabric of their armor. And he certainly wasn't as tall as some of the other leaders he had met during his missions. But what Sam lacked in size, he more than made up for in skill, experience, and the reputation he had earned in the field. He had led successful missions against entire fleets of enemies, outsmarted countless alien species, and helped secure Earth's place among the stars. Sam entered the camp with confidence. Though he knew the first impression might not be in his favor, Commander Arya was sitting at a table in the center of the camp, reviewing maps and strategizing with her officers. She looked up when he approached, and her eyes narrowed slightly, assessing him in an instant. "So, you're the human the council sent," she said, her voice laced with skepticism. Her eyes scanned his frame and her lips curled into a smirk. "You're smaller than I imagined. You don't look like much." Her words hit him like a slap, but Sam refused to let them show on his face. He had faced worse, much worse in the field, and he knew that respect was something you had to earn, not demand. "I might be smaller than you're used to," Sam replied, his voice calm, "but I assure you I'm more than capable of handling whatever comes our way. Earth didn't send me here for my height." Arya's smirk only widened as she stood up. Her presence was commanding and her stature was impressive. She was tall, strong, and her movements were fluid, clearly a warrior through and through. But her eyes still held the skepticism of someone who had never had to depend on someone so seemingly small. "Tell me, Captain," she said, crossing her arms. "Why should we trust you? Your people have a history of making promises and breaking them. You may have some skill, but that won't win me over. I've seen bigger men fall in battle." Sam looked her square in the eyes, unflinching. "I didn't come here to impress you. I came here to secure peace. I don't need to be big to fight for what's right." Arya chuckled, clearly amused by his words. She gestured toward a nearby chair. "I'm sure you've heard the saying, bigger is better. You'll have to excuse me if I don't believe that your tiny frame will make much of a difference in the face of battle." The soldiers around her laughed, some quietly, others more openly. Sam could feel the tension in the air. They were mocking him, underestimating him. But it wasn't the first time it had happened, and he wasn't about to back down. Instead, he stood tall, well, as tall as he could, and looked at Arya, knowing that words would do little to convince her. "You'll see soon enough," Sam said, his voice steady. "I don't need to prove anything to you, but I will prove it on the battlefield." As if on cue, the camp was suddenly rocked by the sound of distant engines. A ship dark and foreboding appeared on the horizon, kicking up a cloud of dust in its wake. Sam's eyes narrowed. He had not expected an ambush this early, but the planet had long been a battleground for rival forces. Mercenaries, raiders, and rogue factions all vied for control. The ship landed with a hiss and a group of heavily armed men emerged, their armor gleaming under the harsh sunlight. They moved quickly, taking up positions around the camp. Sam's mind raced. The situation had escalated faster than he had anticipated. Arya's soldiers immediately took their positions, preparing for a fight. But the mercenaries were ready. They had the numbers, the weapons, and the confidence that they could easily crush the human and his companions. Sam scanned the area, noting the positions of every mercenary. His mind clicked into action. He knew what he had to do. Get behind cover, Sam ordered, his voice loud and clear. Arya hesitated, still sizing him up. You think you can handle this? She asked, still mocking him. Without another word, Sam dashed toward the nearest mercenary, his movements quick and precise. Before anyone could react, he had incapacitated the first man, disarming him in a blur of motion. He moved from one target to the next, his movements like lightning, taking out mercenary after mercenary with speed and skill that no one saw coming. In seconds, 8 men were on the ground, all disarmed, none of them able to put up a fight. Arya stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape. She had expected the fight to be over quickly, but not like this. Not from him. Sam wiped the sweat from his brow and turned to her. Size doesn't always matter, he said, his voice calm but filled with the weight of experience. It's skill that wins battles. For the first time, Arya's expression changed. The mockery was gone, replaced by something closer to respect. She didn't say anything, but in her eyes, Sam saw the acknowledgement. He had done what he came here to do. Prove that humans were a force to be reckoned with. The battle was over in seconds. 8 mercenaries lay unconscious on the ground, their weapons scattered and their pride shattered. Sam stood in the center of the chaos, breathing heavily but calm. His eyes scanned the battlefield, making sure there were no more threats. Arya and her soldiers, still in shock, watched him closely. Arya, who had once laughed at Sam's size, now stood frozen in place, her gaze fixed on him. For the first time, the human in front of her was no longer a joke. Her mind raced. She had underestimated him, dismissed him as weak, and now here he was, effortlessly defeating a group of enemies that had come to end the talks before they even began. Sam didn't gloat. He didn't boast. He didn't need to. The result spoke for itself. He turned to Arya, his expression as calm as ever. I didn't come here to show off. I came to do what was needed. His voice was steady, not a hint of arrogance in his words. Arya swallowed, still processing what had just happened. She had seen many great warriors, but never had she encountered someone like Sam Carter. He wasn't just a human. He was something different. He had just taken on 8 of the galaxy's most skilled mercenaries without hesitation, without flinching. And now she had to wonder, how many more of them could he take on? Arya's silence was deafening. She had been taught to be wary of her enemies, to never show weakness, but now, standing before this human who had proven himself in the most direct way possible, she found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about strength. You really are something else, Arya finally said, her voice softer than it had been earlier. She looked around at the fallen mercenaries, then back at Sam. I've never seen anything like it. You took them down like they were nothing. Sam gave a small shrug, though his eyes showed a flicker of amusement. It wasn't about strength. It was about using what I have. Speed, precision, and a little bit of luck. He paused and met her gaze. And trust me, I don't need to be bigger to handle what's in front of me. Arya nodded slowly, her mind still working through the surprise. The tension that had filled the air earlier was now replaced with something more subtle. Respect. She took a deep breath and then turned to one of her soldiers, ordering them to secure the mercenaries and make sure they weren't a threat anymore. As the soldiers moved into action, Arya's attention returned to Sam. He had proven his worth in a way that no words could have done. She had laughed at him, underestimated him, and yet here he was, standing tall, still the same size as when she first saw him, but infinitely more capable. Why didn't you say anything earlier? She asked, her tone almost curious. Why didn't you tell me what you could do? We could have avoided all this. Sam looked at her, his expression serious. It's not about telling people what you can do. It's about showing them when it matters. I could have spoken all day, but words mean nothing until you show what you're made of. Arya didn't answer right away. She turned away and walked toward the command table, her footsteps heavy in the silence that had fallen between them. She had always prided herself on her ability to read people, to know when someone was a threat or when they could be useful. But Sam had thrown everything she thought she knew out the window. She looked down at the map spread before her, her thoughts racing. I'll admit, she said after a moment, I didn't think much of humans before today. You've always been seen as, well, small, unimportant. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. But now I see that size isn't everything. It's what's inside that counts, isn't it? Sam nodded, his eyes steady as he answered. That's what I've been trying to say. Humans may not be the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest, but we're survivors. We know how to adapt. We fight for what we believe in, and we never back down, no matter the odds. Arya turned back to him, her eyes meeting his with a new level of understanding. I see that now, she said softly. She didn't know if she would ever fully trust him or his people, but she knew that the humans weren't to be underestimated. They were a force in their own right. Then we have a deal, Sam said, his voice firm. Let's work together, not just for our own survival, but for the future of both our peoples. Arya studied him for a long moment as though weighing his words. She had seen leaders try to manipulate her in the past, heard many promises that were broken, but Sam wasn't like the others. There was something different about him. All right, Captain, she said, her voice clear and resolute. I think we have a chance here. I'll give you the alliance you came for. But know this, Sam Carter. This will be the first of many challenges. I don't trust easily, but you've earned my respect today. Sam smiled slightly. I didn't come here to earn respect, Arya. I came here to ensure that Earth and Varner have a future together. I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. The two of them stood there for a moment, the tension between them now gone. The sounds of soldiers securing the mercenaries faded into the background as they each considered the path ahead. The mission was far from over, and there was still much work to be done, but one thing was certain. Sam Carter had proven that size wasn't the measure of a warrior. His true strength lay in his skill, his heart, and his willingness to do whatever it took to protect his people. And Arya, the fierce commander of Varnar's rebel forces, had just learned that lesson the hard way.